Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Blue Marble Science. The other day, one of our most loyal followers posted the picture you see here. This picture was taken by Rakia Life, and it's of the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. And I don't think at the time Rakia realized how brilliantly this actually shows the curvature of the Earth. So I thought it might be a good idea to do a quick video and help him out. Here we go. Well, first of all, where was this picture taken? Rakia doesn't like to tell people where he takes pictures from or how far away he was from things, but I think we can figure it out from some clues here in the picture itself. Let's see what we got. You see those marine spans in the bridge. Those occur in two locations, but the marine spans can be distinguished from one another by some details that are in the picture. First of all, let me point out that you see an electrical enclosure right there, and there are actually 5 of them visible in this photograph. But the other thing you can see is this tower, this communications tower, with a very distinctive antenna array on it. Now notice that if we take a line on the left side, which would be the west side of the tower, it passes just on the east side or the right side of that electrical enclosure. So let's see if we can use that information to figure out where Rakia was. There's a Google Earth picture of the causeway, and you see the enclosure marked by that arrow and that pin, and the tower marked by that arrow and that pin. Now let's zoom in a little bit. Here we can actually see the marine span right there. That's where boat traffic can pass under the causeway. It looks like that when we zoom in on it. You can also see the tower location, and you can see the enclosure. Now let's have a look at that tower. There it is on Google Earth from a street view. And pay attention to the antenna array. You see a cluster of 3 antennas about 2/3 of the way up there on the right, and another grouping up high on the left-hand side. Let's fade in a portion of the picture that Rakia took and see how that matches. And there you have it. Let's fade it back out. And we'll fade it back in one more time. So I think we can safely say that is the tower that appears in Rakia's picture. Now let's have a look at the electrical enclosure. That would be this one down here. And that enclosure appears to be about 16 feet in width and maybe 20 feet in length. Those panels are generally 2-foot wide panel sections. Note the support structure under the enclosure. We know that's about 19 feet off the water because the walkway is basically at the level of the causeway, and we know its elevation above mean sea level. Now let's move back down to the top of the marine span, and you can see the tower in the distance. Going back to that top view again, if we draw a line from the left or west side of the tower to the right or east side of the enclosure, notice it passes right over the marine span. And that's pretty much exactly what we saw. There you see where the line starts on the tower. There you see where it crosses the marine span. And there you see where it passes just east of that electrical enclosure. If we extend that line all the way back to the shoreline, we end up at a point somewhere about there. Let's zoom in a little bit on that. So my best guess is Rakia was standing about where that X is, maybe on that walkway that says Lakefront Trail. That's about 10 feet above mean sea level. Or he could have been standing on top of the levee, which is about 19 feet above mean sea level. It's only about a 9-foot difference. So now let's take a line from that point and extend it all the way up to the 5th enclosure north of the enclosure we identified as the one that was farthest to the right in that photograph. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to see what the field of view would have been. Let's have a look at that. Turns out that zoomed in the way Rakia was, the field of view right there that we're seeing is only about 350 feet in width. There, that's exactly what we were looking at. So we're only looking across 350 feet of horizon. There's the enclosure that we used in identifying the position of the camera. Then you see 4 more enclosures, and these are about 1 mile apart. So the total separation is about 5 miles, running away from us, of course. And if you draw a straight line across there, that of course is going to match the horizon. You're only looking across 350 feet of horizon. You see a straight line there that connects the top of the first enclosure to the top of the last enclosure. But you notice that the 3 enclosures in the center do not fall on that straight line. They follow a curved line. And you have a sagitta there, which is indicative of the curvature of the earth. Meanwhile, you see a perfectly straight 350-foot horizon. This is not a very satisfying outcome for Rakia, so he says this: wait, so the tops of the electrical boxes are curving, but the water under isn't. Rakia, you're only seeing 350 feet of the horizon. The sagitta for that is less than 1/1000th of an inch. Obviously, the horizon is going to appear perfectly flat when you're looking at such a narrow field of view. But let's see what we would expect to see. Now, the one thing I noticed looking at that picture is that there appears to be probably a moderate amount of refraction going on that particular day. So I've arbitrarily set the index of refraction at about 0.34. For an observer height of 15 feet, the distance to that first enclosure is 7.5 miles. The distance to the horizon, on the other hand, is 5.8 miles. So about 1.2 feet of the bottom of the enclosure supports should have been hidden, and that's more or less what we saw. Now if we look at the 5th enclosure, 5 miles away, that's 12.5 miles from the point the picture was made. The hidden amount should be 19 feet, more or less exactly the height of those enclosure supports. Is that what we're observing? Well, let's have a look. Let's blow up the enclosure on the right like that, and we'll put a red line on the top and a red line on the bottom. And then let's move to the next enclosure and do the same thing and match it up best we can. The picture's pretty fuzzy, as I said. I think refraction was probably at a moderate level that day. I'll skip that 3rd one because the picture just gets a little too crowded. That's what the 4th one looks like. And that's what the last one looks like. So what are we seeing? Well, we're certainly seeing most of the legs, if not all of them, on that first enclosure. We're seeing even less of them on the second. On the 4th enclosure, we're only seeing maybe half of them, and by the time we get to the far end, they've disappeared. That matches the predicted hidden height, I think, about as closely as you can with a photograph of this nature. So the top of the electrical enclosures clearly show Earth curvature. There's no question about that. And the enclosure supports disappear behind Earth curvature exactly like they should. Oopsies. Any questions? Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And Rakia, when I say how stupid can you be, that's not a challenge. That's a question. I'll see you guys on the next one.